This is Ask the Mayor with Beatrice Mayor, Bob Morgan. Nice. We gotten into these nice string of mornings, Bob. They're kind of nice getting up and seeing the cool air, except if you have allergies.
Right, yeah. Yeah, hay fever is really kind of getting to me, so I sneeze, sorry.
I do too. So there's a certain window during September and October where you have to put up with a little bit of
yeah, but boy,
misery.
Yeah. And you know, this has just been one of the most unusual summers, and maybe it's just because I play golf. Yeah. There has not been as much wind as we typically have had, because there's been a couple of days in August where we had real wind, and I was like, oh, this is good old Nebraska.
You know, and things stayed green longer, and, you know, some lawns and places, you know, you start to see fungus show up. We haven't really seen much of that this year.
We haven't, but it's starting to show up. And,
a little bit.
And, you know, I think about what my dad always told me. He said, you know, by September or August or September, everybody's yard starts looking tired because the grass is tired of growing.
Yeah. So tired like the rest of us.
It's like the rest of us.
It's been a long summer. So. Well, this is a big day in Beatrice and Gage County. It's Big Give Gage Day, the 24-hour online donation campaign, and able to track it here with everybody else on the website, and doing pretty well so far.
Absolutely. You know, I think it's an amazing thing to see the community and the whole county rally together for the causes that are there, and every cause is worthwhile considering, and you know, I hope they have a great day and reach their goal.
Yeah. And a lot of the services they provide, if you had to provide those at the public level, either governmental or some taxpayer-supported entity, it'd be pretty tough to do that.
It really would.
Yeah. So you issued a proclamation earlier this week. So did Gage County Board Chairman Eric Tiemann earlier. So call attention to it a little bit. So.
Yes, you know, Don Vetrosky was there to accept it, and Don and Verdella have really done a great job, as well as the people at the foundation of the hospital. You know, I think one of the things that they say is, you know, all the work pre-work that's being done is all volunteer.
Yeah.
And so when you give your money, that means 100% of your donation goes to that cause. And, you know, when you look at a lot of other fundraising organizations, a lot of times administrative costs eats up a lot of what you may have donated, and in this case, that's not the case.
Yeah. The big question this year will be, you know, the effect of economic conditions, because let's face it, inflation is up, and people take a look at the dollars they have to spend, and obviously they got to spend on immediate needs and things like that, and prices are a little higher than normal. They've come down some since earlier in the year, but still that inflationary pressure there.
Sure. I mean, it's had an impact on probably everybody's budget.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of those things that you kind of fight a little bit on something like this. But in the spirit of giving, I think you're going to see a lot of people come out, and I think they'll have a good day.
Yeah. Just as we were talking, they're up to 66,000 now. So
excellent.
See the fuel gauge move up here as it's going, as long as the fuel doesn't do that too.
Well, that's kind of creeped up there again this week. That's one of those,
so, yeah. Anybody wanting a last summer vacation's taking a look at that too. So, couple of topics from the Board of Public Works meeting yesterday. You had kind of just a brief update on the water main work going on downtown that has closed Court Street between 4th and 7th. Had a chance to walk downtown. It's kind of interesting yesterday, just because you see it from a distance and you think, a lot of equipment, a lot of barriers and things, but then you get up close and you look at what they actually have to do. It's quite an undertaking.
You know, it really is, and the holes are deep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you know, when they get that hole dug out and then they have to put it back in.
Yeah.
You know, when you see I think it was pretty obvious on 6th and Court, when you look down and you see that extension ladder that goes clear to the bottom. You know, you're wondering, wow, and you think about the guys down in that hole. You wouldn't want to be claustrophobic. But they are doing a nice job. I think everybody said that they're on schedule. You know, I think they've done great care of taking the job and hooking up the taps really pretty well, and we've been very happy with the way they've worked and accommodated us, because we've kind of had to move around a couple of times, and they've moved around a little bit, and so they've done a really good job of trying to stay on track, and they'll finish, you know, a section that has to kind of have the water tested. I mean, that's one of the things that, you find out. You have to have the water tested when you get the lines open, and then, that takes some time, and then they'll go back and start working on taps on an area that's already got the water tested and passed. So it adds to the time that it just takes. And when you're working on lines that are, like I've said, over 100 years old, it takes some time. And if you look at the buildings that we have downtown, we want to take care of the buildings as we move forward. And they've been around for a long time. And so as you get downtown, it's just going to take a little bit of time to get through it all.
Two things that struck me as I was looking at it from close up yesterday is, one, you see a little bit of history with, brick facilities and things underground. But the second thing was, saw a couple of chunks of, the old pipe that came out. And I'm thinking, when you look at that, you think, it's only a matter of time before you see a few failures with that if you leave it in for another 10 or 20 years.
That's true. And, when the SRF loan came through at 0%, which you're not going to find 0% anymore anywhere, it was just an opportunity to take care of what we believe is some needs that were going to happen in the future. And I think that's one of the things that we've always tried to focus on, is how do we leave things for the future a little better than what we have today. And I think this project is just that. I think when you look at, it causes heartburn. I mean, traffic, has to go around, and you have to figure out your ways to get through downtown. And you wish you could do it without that, but at the end of the day, that's progress for the future.
Yeah. Had somebody ask me the open intersection north-south at 5th Street. They're wondering, why do the stoplights stay on? Because you got nobody coming in from east or west. My assumption was, well, you still have workers that are crossing that area now and then as one thing, but is they asked me, well, why couldn't you just put a flashing red, or something like that to stop? Any thought on that?
And that's a good observation. One of the things that I learned, because I ask the question sometimes, is you go down 77, are the stoplights timed the way you want them to be timed?
Yeah, so you can get through all of them. Yeah.
So what I found out is that's really Nebraska Department of Transportation, because those are highways. And so they're in control of the stoplights, and it was probably their decision, maybe for safety. So some of those things are out of the city's control.
Well, even at that, the one on 5th, which is part city street, part highway, still under the control of NDOT, isn't it?
That is correct, yes.
So, okay.
Yep.
So it's just, hey, put up with it for a while.
Put up for a while,
You wait at the light all the time. If you're going to wait there another month, it's not going to kill you or anything. It'll be fine.
That's true, but, I have to admit, I agree. You kind of feel silly sitting there at a red light when you've got barricades on both sides.
Especially for the people that say stop at the bakery early in the morning and there's no traffic, and you're sitting there looking at the red light and there's nobody coming east-west. But hey, just be patient.
Well, we will get through this.
Yeah, another month and it'll be done. So you mentioned the SRF loan. The part at the Public Works Board meeting yesterday about the engineering work that was done to set up a new wellhead protection plan area. Was that related to the transmission line work, or that was done in any way, or what?
And the new property.
Yeah.
And that just helps us protect our drinking water. And so you'll see that work moving forward once you get all the permits to put wells down, and that helps us protect the ground so we don't have high nitrate water.
Yeah. And that is the problem that you try to solve with the extra transmission line anyway.
That is correct.
So you don't want to go backward on that. Now, the board approved that. They send it to the council, and the council has the final.
Right. Well, I don't see where that's going to be a really big issue. We'll probably take care of that, I would guess, on Monday night. Again, when you look at all the I guess, news that have been about drinking water, and hats off to Steve Kelly. That's something that he's always taken, for 50-some years, taken very seriously our quality of our water, and pays off.
There were a couple of public hearings earlier, and then there was a hearing before the board yesterday. Nobody spoke at it. But the council, will they conduct another public hearing on that, or did they just vote on it? I can't remember what the sequence is there, but...
I haven't seen the agenda. I'd hate to guess, but in this day and age, there probably would be a short public hearing again.
or the opportunity if somebody wanted to say something.
Right. You always do that during the resolution period.
Okay. Back with more with Mayor Bob Morgan on Ask the Mayor in a moment. You're listening to Ask the Mayor on KWBE with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. Another item from the Public Works Board, which had come up before the council prior to that, and he had a suggestion from a Councilman Gary Barnard about, do you look at increasing the infrastructure fee a little bit, knowing that in the future you may have high-cost items or you may need a little more cushion for big infrastructure projects. The board yesterday kind of seemed like they took the track that, no, you don't really need it right now, that, you've planned for projects 2 years out. You know of others that may be coming up in future years. There's enough in reserves right now. What was your takeaway from that?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think it was worth taking a look at. I think that anytime, you've had inflation where it's been over the last, 3 or 4 years as it climbs, I think you always have to take a look at the infrastructure fee. And I think one of the things that I think came out of that discussion that, first of all, that I thought was, really good is that I think all the Board of Public Works members gave it some good thought. I think they said at the end of the day, we've already gone through the budgetary process. We've taken a look at that. The department heads have said that we can do it on the money that we have. And so I think they gave it some good consideration. I'm not saying what their recommendation will be because we didn't have a recommendation. It was in the discussion period. But I think also what it really did is help clarify what the infrastructure fee is for. Because I know there was also a discussion from another councilman about, is it fair to have the same infrastructure fee for everybody? And the infrastructure fee really pays for just that, the infrastructure. And probably the best example that I can see is the money that we put into the WPC, the water treatment plant. That is used by everybody the same way, and it cleans the water. That came from infrastructure fee money rather than a rate money. And that infrastructure fee money actually probably helped us get that 5-year certification for our WPC plant that we can move forward with for another 5 years and continue to plan upgrades, because the WPC plant is going to take some upgrades over the next 5 to 10 years. We know that, and so we're trying to plan that out. So that infrastructure fee really helps make sure we can do that in the most effective way.
Yeah, the systems serve everybody. It has to be in place to, provide the service to begin with.
Right. So I think that was good to have that come out. I think, at the end of the day, I think everybody has taken a pretty good look at it from a serious standpoint. You did just get into the budgetary process and pass the budget. So the question is this something we need right now, or is this something we take a look at a year from now when we see exactly where we are, over or under, as prices rise or fall? So I think it's a worthy discussion. I think, like I said, I thought the Board of Public Works did a good job discussing it, and so we'll see where we go from there.
If you were to make a change on the infrastructure fee based on, size of home, income of somebody, their resources, in effect, wouldn't you kind of end up with two retail rates, don't you, essentially?
You do, and you also kind of basically get into more of the rate. The actual rate. So it would be a very difficult thing to do. And so, I think we've done a pretty good job of, again, identifying infrastructure projects that could be done out of the infrastructure fee, and then rates that will help pay for the actual consumption that is used by each citizen.
One of the big WPC projects going on right now is the bypass work in the Glenover section. Sounds like that's at least half completed, on its way to it.
It's moving really well. And that'll bypass from the industrial park down, and I think Lamwell Plumbing is working on that one, and they're doing a very good job. And they're moving right along.
I think that's what aimed to prevent the possibility of backups in a residential area based on volume you have coming from the industrial park area.
Yes, that's correct.
So.
That way, you kind of can continue to keep them separated. You get the industry and you've got the residential folks, and hopefully you don't have any problems in between.
Yeah. Sounds like the infrastructure fee discussion will come back one more time before the Public Works Board, and then go to you and the council? Would that be the case, or how do you see that?
It could happen that way.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just something that we're going to have to discuss to see, how much traction it has or does not have.
Okay. Just kind of an update yesterday from the meeting about, in addition to the water main project, people driving around town have noticed, I'm sure, some of the street work that's been going on, some of the patching work, some of the sections of lane on U.S. highways that have been laid down to sort of smooth out. I got to admit, a few of those patches were getting pretty rough.
Yeah.
you look at South 6th, not too far from the fire department, and I think on the southbound lanes by Dempster, where they had redone that. So kind of some improvements there to kind of make it a little bit smoother. So.
Right. And the first question or clarification is, yes, they are highways.
Yeah.
However, the city, as soon as it's the city limits, we're responsible for the maintenance of those roads. And I have to say that it's a blessing to have the employees that we have, because we're doing all that work in-house. Mm-hmm. And they're getting really, really good at it and smoothing out the bumps. If we had to go out and get a contract for that work to be done, it would be very, very high and very expensive. So the employees are really doing a good job. We continue to do that in those patches because we're at the point in time where, next spring, U.S. Highway 136 is going to get a new mill and overlay. Mm-hmm. And so as Jason Moore explained, there are places where you have concrete and then asphalt over the top, and the concrete's breaking up, and so that kind of hurts the foundation. So if you just put mill and overlay over the top of something that's already broken, it's not going to last very long. Yeah. And so sometimes it looks like the road isn't too bad, but at the end of the day, you have to look at what it looks like underneath as well. And yes, that's just another that we're kind of in total construction mode, and I understand that. But at the end of the day, again, that's improving our infrastructure for the future, and it really puts us in a good position. So when they start coming in to mill and overlay U.S. Highway 136, you're going to see that road last a whole lot longer because of what we're doing.
That's all the way from the railroad tracks to 21st, which is about out by, is that Envisions, just past Envision Landscape, or somewhere, somewhere in that region?
It's right, I think it stops right at Eye Care Specialties, right in that area.
Okay.
So I think that stretches out. And so we will have
a little more construction.
We'll have construction next summer. We don't have any choice over that. That's the Nebraska Department of Transportation.
Kind of wonder if that might be one of those where you do one side and you keep traffic moving through there, and then the other side. We'll wait and see on that.
Yeah, but, that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah. The other thing too is a year or two more down the road, then you go to US 77 through town.
I think that's slated for the spring of 28.
28. Okay, much farther.
And so that's why you're seeing the patches and why they're important there. Like the example that you said by Dempster's, because we need to stretch that road out. Well, what is it? Another 5 years.
Yeah.
But one time you get this done, then it's the 136 done. It's only 4 years, and so at the end of the day, you're going to see some improvements on Highway 77 that will cause a little heartburn again.
Sounds like the city's going to get billed for part of that. It's just
we still are baffled because we don't have to. My understanding is the Nebraska Department of Transportation has the whole cost of the mill and overlay for the 136 project, and then we get to pay for a portion of the 77 project, and I think that was targeted at $890,000.
It wouldn't happen to be because it's 4-lane and not 3, because I thought at one time that you were maintenance-wise obligated to take care of the outside lanes and they have the inside lanes. Is that the case or not?
It might be. I don't know that answer.
I need to ask Jason about that sometime.
That's absolutely.
Like
I'm sure there's a reason
in my mind that there was something to do with outside inside lanes, but I don't know. Maybe you turn it into a 3-lane road, you can get out of that one. Just joking. I don't want anybody to, don't want to start the latest, you know what.
Yeah, we're not going to go down that road. No.
Because but that's farther down the road.
That is 20. I think it's 2027 or 2028. Originally, we thought 27. Some reason I think it got pushed to 28.
Okay.
And again, it'll probably depend on the money that the state has at that point in time.
Okay. We'll be back wrapping up Ask the Mayor with Mayor Bob Morgan in a moment. We have about 6 minutes left on Ask the Mayor today with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. A couple of things to touch on. I hadn't been there since just the last day or two, but it looks like the waterfall at Chautauqua Park.
Yes.
Ready to go. Kind of a neat improvement there.
Yep. Envisions, I think, are finishing up some of the landscaping, and it's turned out to be a really neat project.
Yeah.
And the water is flowing over the top, and I think the big thing is I think it was an idea that really grew, and there's a lot of people from the Waterfall Committee, and thanks Ted Fairbanks, because he championed it from the City Council side. Got a beautiful waterfall working now, and I think we really want to keep it nice, and we want to make sure that we treat it with respect, and that we have it for many years to come.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll probably be benches around it, things like that. People to enjoy it, just a nice place to rest there. Probably don't want anybody waiting in it or putting animals in it or things like that. If you can avoid that, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not a place to play in the water. It's not a place to go up and have the waterfall fall on you. It's not a place for your dog to go swimming. It really is an aesthetic value to Chautauqua Park, and to keep it nice. We want everybody to stay, number one, safe, and we want everybody to enjoy it. So please stay out of the water, stay out of the waterfall, and let everybody enjoy what turned out to be a really nice project.
And I'm guessing it's better than trying to draw water from a duck pond. I know there was the try. I know people were trying to come up with a solution, and sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. This one looks like it'll really work nicely.
Well, and it's also a matter of increase. I mean, time has made things easier. Yeah. I mean, we now have a number of waterfalls that people have in their yard because they recycle the water from the pond, or from the pond at the bottom back up to the top. And so it's a technology that's available today to really enhance what was there in the past.
City council meeting coming up Monday, but I was going to say Monday night, but it's actually late afternoon.
It is. It's at 4 o'clock. Yeah. Looking at, we'll take a look at a number of issues that the Board of Public Works has sent our way. We will also have the second reading of the revised nuisance property ordinance. And at this point, I have not heard a lot of comments. I don't know about the other council members, but it's one of those things that we took a look at, and I think Councilman Barnard and his ordinance group has done a good job of trying to do their best as you work with the nuisance properties, because the hardest part about the nuisance property, we had a good discussion of at the last city council meeting, is it's hard to figure out where do you go with this, because everybody has rights. And some people aren't going to keep their property up the way maybe other people do, and it always causes a little bit of heartburn. If you go through town, you can see the people that really like to do yard work, and they water their yard, and they've got a beautiful yard, but maybe somebody next door doesn't really care about that, so their yard might be a little browner, and it's you can't really legislate how somebody treats their property to a certain extent.
I was going to just ask you about that, because several council people have said that, and one of them for a long time, Councilman Fairbanks, you can't legislate pride. If you don't have pride in your own property, you just, maybe the motivation's not there for some.
It's just hard. It really is. They joked about penguins in my yard, which I don't have, but that would be considered artwork. And for some people, what they have in their yard is their interpretation of artwork, and that's not wrong.
From time to time, of course, we're going to be getting out of mowing season before too long, but during the summer, when you have the yards that aren't taken care of properly, or long weeds grow or something, there's always been the 1 foot rule or 12-inch rule as far as any thought of changing that, or is that included in this? Or I know there's been a little bit of discussion about it. But,
I It is in that. The hardest part about that is before we can mow, we have to give notice.
Yeah.
And in order to give notice, they have to be around to receive it.
Or they could ignore it and
Or they can ignore
they didn't
it.
receive it.
And at some point in time, we can go in, but the hard part is it just delays timing.
Yeah.
And
now you've grown another.
with this summer there was times that it was growing close to half an inch a day, and so I think that's the most frustrating part on everybody's part is the people have called in properties that need mowed, and we give out notice, and by the time the notice gets out and before we can post a sign in the yard and do the proper things we have to do from a legal standpoint, it looks like we're not getting to it. But we do get to it. It's just a matter of giving them the proper notice, and that's the difficult part about that. And it's also the difficult part about we run into the snow. Typically you got to get your sidewalk scooped within 24 hours after the snow stops, and to get that done, we also have to give notice. And so that's the frustrating part.
So if the city has to go out and mow it or have it mowed, is it billed to the property owner eventually?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
it is billed to the property owner.
Okay.
Yep.
And do they usually pay for it?
I don't know the answer to that. I would guess you've got some that do, and you have some that probably, they're getting services for the city, and, they owe the city money, then that puts in jeopardy of the services that we provide. Yeah. So I do think they do pay it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mayor, thanks for being with us. Thanks for reminding me about the council meeting at 4, because I probably would have showed up at 7 if something like that.
But we want everybody to know that.
Yeah, okay.